Hey everybody, how's it going? It's the Daily Shooter, and as if there wasn't already a million and one reasons not to register your firearm as an assault weapon here in the state of California, the Department of Justice gives us a few more. Now, for those of us who own firearms in the state of California, we already understand that the California Department of Justice for years has been demonizing firearms ownership. By doing so, they change public opinion, they change public perception, and it empowers them to further infringe on our Second Amendment rights. Now, in doing so, they've actually become emboldened now to actually criminalize firearms ownership, and that's what we're going to talk about today: a data breach and the criminalization of active duty service members who own long guns. All right, so let's go ahead and start with the first topic, which is the DOJ data breach. Now, for those of you watching who regularly watch this channel, most of you understand that registration leads to confiscation. You guys get that. And so you made legal modifications to your firearms in order to avoid registering. Now, there's a lot of people out there who just didn't want to deal with it. They would rather go through the entire process and register their firearms. Well, I can tell you there's already, like I said, a million and one reasons not to do that. However, there was recently a major data breach, and this is not the first time, by the Department of Justice that negatively impacted those people who were trying to register their firearms legally. So what was happening was people were logging in, they were creating accounts, they were providing the information that they were giving to the California Department of Justice in order to register their bullet button rifles as assault weapons. And in the meantime, in doing so, they were actually given access to other people's information and other account data. So somebody who was trying to, let's say I was on there and I'm trying to register my bullet button rifle as an assault weapon, I was actually given access, or I would have been given access to somebody else's account, being able to see their driver's license, their address, phone numbers, personal data, type of firearm that they were trying to register, the serial number for that firearm. I mean, basically all the personal data that they had uploaded to the California Department of Justice's website was now accessible by me, or by whoever might be looking at it. So this data breach was massive, and it affected those gun owners. Now, in the past, the Department of Justice has been sort of lacking in the security side of firearm owners' identity protection. Okay, they don't care about us, they don't care about our, identity protection. And this is something that has mostly gone unreported by major news media outlets, which really isn't surprising. Now, the next issue really pisses me off. It directly affects active duty service members, people who are overseas during the registration process. So if you are active duty, if you are deployed, you're overseas, and you don't have access to the internet or access to your firearm or its information, you are not able to register on time. Now, the DOJ isn't giving any leeway on this particular problem right now. So people who were overseas at the time and unable to register their bullet button rifles as assault weapons, if that's the area or the direction that they chose to go, are screwed. They are technically coming back from overseas as criminals. So a little bit of advice to you guys who are coming back and you haven't registered your bullet button rifles and that was your overall intention. You still have a bullet button rifle in your safe. My advice to you guys is simply separate the upper and lower and house them as halves until everything gets hashed out and you guys can work this out, because they are only considered an assault weapon when they are complete. If you can keep the lower separate from the upper, then at that point it's not considered an assault weapon by California Department of Justice standards. And so that's what I would do if you're returning from deployment. That would be my first step until a lot of these people that are fighting for this can figure out exactly what's going on. But to me, that it's a travesty. These people are coming back from sacrificing time away from their families, sacrificing potentially their lives. These are people who are being put in harm's way in order to protect our rights. And yet once they come back, California Department of Justice considers them criminals. So it's just a travesty. The California Department of Justice has its head so far up its ass it doesn't even see that it is criminalizing an entire section of our society, our honored men and women of the armed forces. Now, as if that wasn't bad enough, and trust me, I get it, that's bad, but the California Department of Justice had another problem. On the last day of registration, which was June 30th until 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the DOJ's website, the website that was used for registration, was crashing constantly. The website was down. You were unable to access it. Some people were going through the registration process and unable to finish. And so many people were kicked out, it wasn't able to handle the volume of people that were there to register, which is, I guess, kind of a sad note in itself. But the California Department of Justice should have anticipated that there was going to be, hey, we have millions of bullet button rifles in the state of California. Maybe we should plan for a flow like this. And when it wasn't able to handle the traffic, the site went down, and people weren't able to register those rifles that they intended to register on time. Well, the next day when you woke up, you were instantly a criminal. So it was sort of like one of those things where the negligence of the California Department of Justice created criminals where there shouldn't be any. So because they were negligent, and because they didn't properly create a website that could handle that kind of traffic, it put people in a category, a criminal category, that shouldn't be there. Now, I am 100% completely against registration. I think that you should go any legal means possible in order to avoid it. But for those people that were trying to register their rifles, they should be allowed to do so without becoming a criminal. So it's just you know, I hate, it's just a cluster. Okay, it's just a cluster. It's horrible. The California Department of Justice has now gone beyond just their demonizing of firearms and firearms ownership into criminalizing firearms owners now. And to be honest with you, I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to go on with enforcement, if there's going to be any changes, if they're going to recognize that, you know, there's a lot of good people out there. I'm talking lawyers, teachers, doctors, and so forth, that might be criminals as of today, and do something about it. But I don't have high hope for the California Department of Justice. We are a third-class citizen, and so they're not really worried about working that hard for us. So anyway, what I would suggest you guys do is, again, sign up for those newsletters, sign up to support the gun rights advocacy groups that support us, and let's try and push forward with a lot of these lawsuits and, you know, legal challenges that we have going on right now. I really appreciate everybody watching. I'm sorry that I even have to make these videos, but I really do appreciate your support. If you want to support this channel even further, I do have a Patreon account where you guys can go and donate a little bit of money, even as low as $1 if you'd like, to help keep the channel running. And I thank you all very much for the support. Please like, subscribe. Have a great day.